Okay, so what I did in video one, creating an interactive map, was looked at creating invisible buttons and then having features that when you roll over them, different objects appear. So here we can see this. I roll over this, I see this. So what I want to do in this video is take this a little bit further and take a look at, okay, now that we've done that, how do we go about adding some looping animation so when the viewer comes to our page, the viewer knows to hover over certain areas. So you can see what I have in here over the Ushina and the Urna in this interactive graphic of a statue of a Buddha. And we're looking at the different symbols of the Buddha. What I have is a looping animation that's just kind of changing the colors. It's very subtle, but hopefully it would get the viewer's attention to, hey, come hover over here. Okay, so the next part I want to do, well, first of all, how do we go about doing that? Well, let's take a look at my timeline here. What you're going to find in order to do this, you're actually adding looping animation to a movie clip. So actually, although I have all these frames in here, I could get rid of actually all of these frames and it wouldn't matter because the story is, I could delete all of those. Whoops, well maybe I didn't want to do that, but I could trust me on that, I could get rid of all those frames and this would all still work. Okay. So what I've done is if I come back into here, for this one right here, I created this graphic, and then when I double click into this movie clip, I get a timeline, and I created an animation within there. And I can tell that that's where I am. I'm in the main timeline is scene 1, and I'm in the movie clip Erna 3. All right, so I come back. Let's take a look. We're going to go through the steps of doing an entire one in a minute. So the next one I come up to is looping 2. I double click. I'm in my looping 2 window, and I can see that what I've done is I've inserted a motion tween over 50 frames, and as I go through, I can see the colors changing. All right, so let's take a look at how I'm going to go about doing that. So this one right here, I have, I'm calling this one looping 3. Now, I'm going to turn this off so you can see what I have selected here. I have the ears selected here, okay? And all you want to do in order to select the ears is you can bring them in as their own layer. I actually went in and used the polygon mode, which isn't the best tool to use, but it works. And then what you do after you get it selected, you have to convert to a symbol and make it into a movie clip. So what I'm going to do here is click right on this guy. All right, and then all I want to do is double click into this, and here I am inside of my movie clip. My movie clip is symbol 7. I probably should have named it, but I didn't. Okay, so I'm going to come to frame 50, and I'm going to just begin by inserting my frames. Insert, timeline, frame. I have all of these frames now. I'm going to come to frame, and actually all I want to do now is insert my motion tween. Insert motion tween. It's going to convert them, okay. I come on in right to 25, about, doesn't matter if it's not exactly, I'm going to control click. I'm going to insert a keyframe. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I come on into my properties panel, I can click onto this, and I can start working with different things. So I could work with the brightness of this, you know, make them kind of, that might be kind of nice, go bright. And then I can come back to control click, insert keyframe, position. I'm going to click back on these, and then we'll put the brightness. Actually, we'll go all the way dark. All right, excellent. So now let's test our movie, test. Okay, it might be a tad bit dramatic. So if I wanted to change that around, I actually probably wouldn't want to go that dark. I could double click, I could come back to here, maybe make this more like that right there. And as I come into here, my thinking is, all right, excellent. Let's try it one more time. Test movie, test. All right, that's actually working much better. All right, so let's actually, from beginning to finish, let's do one more. Next thing is if I was going to do the monk robes, and this one would be a little bit more complicated, but let's give it a shot. I'm going to create a new layer. My new layer needs to be over top of my looping 4. It needs to be over top of my what? It needs to be, my looping part needs to be over top of my image. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to put an overlay over top of this. Oh, and I turned the image off. I'm wondering, where is it? Okay, so what I want to do right now is come on in and work with, make a selection. And really your best bet with making these kind of selections is to make the selections in another program. Let's say like Photoshop, Illustrator, and bring them in already made. All right, so what I want to do right now, I'll show you some of the tools I used to make my selections before. I could come on in here and work with the lasso tool. There also is a quick selection tool, but what we could do is we could come in and paint over top of this. So I could grab my paintbrush tool and I could come to my properties panel. I could change my color here. Let's come on over into this bigger world of color. Let's go for something more like that. Maybe even darken it up just a little bit. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to paint over top of this and then make it an overlay. Now, I need to make sure that I am on this layer right here, and I can come on in and I can see I'm starting to paint. Come back in over to my tools. Oops, hitting the wrong one again. I want my brush tool, and I want to make my brush bigger. All right, so I'm going to paint over this, and I'm going to hit pause while I paint, and I'll turn it back on when I'm all finished painting. So check you back in a minute. But what I was going to, as I paint, I would just come over and paint over top. Now, when you're zoomed in, you'll find that your brush is actually bigger, and I'm in this tiny brush size, but it's different. It's not, so I can come on in and I can see. Now, if I get my smaller detail, I would need to zoom in even more. So I'm going to pause, and it's interesting though, as you zoom in, your brush stays the same size. All right, I'll be back in a minute. This whole thing painted now. Back from my pause, if I zoom it on in, I can see that the whole thing is painted. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to convert it to a movie clip. So I'm going to click, click. I have all of these different parts. Come to modify, convert to symbol, and this will be a movie clip. I'm going to name it robes, and I'll hit OK. All right, robes already exists. Some of my buttons were robes, and so that's what disturbed it. Now, I double click in, and I'm inside of here. I come to frame 50. I come to insert timeline frame. We start in our first one. We click, come on down into my properties. Okay, and what I want to do now is actually begin to change around this movie clip. So let's say, hold on here. All right, so let's actually do this first. We want to select all of it. Okay, so what I had to do was I had to go back into, I just hit pause, and what I had to do is I had to go back into the robes, and I had to make sure they were all done in merge drawing mode, and then converted it to a symbol because I had several symbols within my symbol. So here we go. Let's try this again. So again, in order for this to work, when you paint, it needs to be merge um, in merge drawing mode. And then when you convert it to a symbol, you want the whole thing to read as one symbol. And you'll know if that's the case because when you look at it over here, you can see there's robes 2. That one didn't work. I made robes 2 and here's robes 3. Now this one works because this is all the symbol. Okay, so here goes. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double click. I'm going to come into this frame. I'm going to come to 50. I'm going to come insert timeline frame. And then I'm going to insert my motion tween. Insert motion tween. And it's going to say that it needs to be converted. We're going to say okay. That's fine by us. I'm going to come into insert 25 control, insert keyframe position, and I'm going to put one in 50. Also, insert keyframe position. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my first image right here. I'm going to click on this, come to my properties, and I am going to get my style, my alpha, and I'm going to actually, not yet, let's put this right here. And let's actually do blending, and I'm going to do an overlay. Okay? Then we come on in, and we come to 25. And we're going to change this one a little bit. As we come into here, we're going to change it. Whoops. We'll click onto here. We'll come on into the alpha, and I'm going to turn that down all the way. Then we'll come to 50, and we will click on here again, and we'll turn our alpha back up. And we'll file, we'll save, and let's just double check. Okay, I don't think I moved. I think I need to come back into this one because I didn't do something quite right. I want to come right into this one, click onto here. I'll turn my alpha all the way down. And then we'll come back to here, select this frame. I'm going to come into frame 50, and we want to click onto here, and then we'll turn this back up. So as we come to here, and then back to here, we should have it. Control, we'll test our movie. Test, 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 test. And there we have it. Now again, one of the challenges is making everything work together. I actually liked the way the painting one worked the best. I tried a couple different ones. And again, it's important to know the difference between merge and object drawing mode. And thanks for listening. I'll leave you with that, adding another level of interactivity to our animations.